former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta remains on the wanted list of Interpol. Tonight, we'll delve deep into the legal and security implications for this development. Meanwhile, Special Prosecutor Kissi Agyaben vows to fight corruption, but wants a more robust asset declaration mechanism. Also, there's a newly married man trapped to death under haulage track at Tanokrom in the western region. We've got details of these stories and plenty others coming your way over the next hour here on Hot Edition. We'll start off with the summaries of the day's biggest stories. Lottie Dua, sorry. Eid Mubarak. Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak.
Yes.
Right. Okay, thank you. And now to the summaries of the day. Special Prosecutor Kissi Agyaben has called for a stronger asset declaration system that includes verification and tracking of undeclared assets. Speaking at an AU anti-corruption conference in Accra on June 6, he emphasized the need for legal reforms to keep pace with increasingly complex corruption tactics. In health, the Ministry of Health, in collaboration with civil society groups, has launched the hashtag FP2030 initiative to promote informed reproductive health choices for women and girls in Ghana. Formerly known as Family Planning 2020, FP2030 is a global partnership focused on making family planning central to health and development efforts. Also, the Institution of Engineering and Technology, Ghana, is calling on the government to enforce strict regulations by demolishing old structures built on waterways, including those at Ramsar sites. The call comes amid recent flooding incidents across the country, which have been attributed to poor drainage engineering and illegal construction. IET Ghana President Engineer Henry Kojo made the appeal during the 15th induction ceremony for new engineering professionals in Accra. Then there's also WASCO that's launching the Climate Change Advocacy Now campaign to make World Environment Day 2025. The initiative promotes youth-led climate solutions, media engagement, and grassroots tree planting to support ecosystem restoration. Its executive director, Professor Emmanuel Ramde, emphasized the need for collective action in addressing climate change. And finally, a sad incident Ryan spoke about earlier at Takrade Keminni says on the morning of Eid al-Adha, claiming the life of a man in his early 40s, a tragic accident occurred. A timber-loaded trailer lost control and crashed into a passenger trotro en route to Kujokrom. The victim, Isaac Bonnery, was reportedly trying to escape the vehicle when he was run over by the trailer. Bonnery, a businessman from Asankregwa, had just moved into a new home with his wife and 2-month-old baby. The previous day, emergency services retrieved his body, which has since been taken to the Ifya Kwanta Hospital morgue. That's for the summaries, Keminni. Over to you.
Already disturbing incident there in Tanokrom, and that's where we're going to start, Lord. Thank you so much for bringing us those summaries. If you just joined us, it is Hot Edition live on 392.7 FM. It's the holiday edition. I'm Keminni Amanor. We're streaming live on Facebook.com and on YouTube as well. Let's get into that very heart-rending story from Tanokrom, a suburb of Takrade, when a man believed to be in his early 40s was killed under a very horrific circumstance earlier this morning during Eid al-Adha celebrations. It all happened when a trailer loaded with timber heading towards Fijai from the Tanokrom direction lost control and rammed into a trotro loaded with passengers from Takrade to Kujokrom. Now, according to the trotro driver, in Kansa Tremanting, with few meters to the main Tanokrom pipe, not traffic light, he realized the trailer was reversing towards the direction of the trotro. So in an attempt to swerve, his trotro hit another car which was behind him, and suddenly the trailer also hit the trotro. Now all the passengers in the vehicle started running away after the door was forcefully removed by the mate. And that's the narration from the driver of the vehicle, who monthly tells the gathered crowds there what happened. Now, upon reaching the scene and assessing the situation, Connect FM's We apologize for that break, but I'll tell you more about that story as the driver monthly narrated to very prying crowd who was gathered at the scene of the accident. Now he goes on to tell Connect FM's Kwesi Simpson that he quickly calls the fire service who came to jack the trailer before the body was retrieved. Now the deceased has been identified by relatives as Isaac Bonry, an Asankegua-based businessman who was just completed his house at Apoa and moved in just yesterday with his newly married wife and their 2-month-old baby. According to the relatives, he was going to Kojokrom to purchase towels to furnish his new residence when he met his tragic death. The body has since been deposited at the Fiankwanta Hospital morgue by personnel from the 2nd D Takrade MTTD. We're working to bring you those sound clips from the driver, but you can watch visuals of the incident as it took place on our Facebook and YouTube streams. That accident that claimed the life of one person in Kojokrom. Now, this person, we understand, is recently married with a 2-month-old baby. According to the relatives of the deceased, he was going to Kojokrom to purchase towels to furnish his new residence when he met his rather tragic ending. You see those visuals on Facebook. The trailer track is packed with a lot of timber. It looks very heavy. You should go on Facebook and take a look at it for yourself. The crowd prying to know what has happened after it had emerged that one person had been killed, trapped under the trailer, essentially crushed to death by this trailer. Go take a look at that as we stream it live on Facebook. In other stories, security consultant Richard Kumado has sharply criticized the legal team of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, describing their handling of his case as a serious misstep with significant national and international consequences. Speaking on the Midday News earlier with Beatrice Edu here on 392.7 FM, Kumado highlighted the far-reaching implications of being declared a wanted person or fugitive, an outcome he believes could have been avoided if Mr. Ofori-Atta and his lawyers had engaged more strategically with the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
Definitely, yes. And the risk goes beyond the individual. Sometimes when we do the profiling to the 3rd level or to the 5th level, it affects your immediate bloodline, it affects your associations, it affects your businesses, and it affects your acquaintances. Then when it comes to some transactions and activities you might want to engage in certain parts of the world, issues of fraud, financial crime, and money laundering and crime-related red flags will always pop up. And you and all the people that have been affected will have some questions to answer. This is the reason. The Interpol platform is a very huge platform with a lot of followers. And all investigative agencies and prosecutorial institutions, departments, and units are all going to have access to your profile, and they will expand the spread to other databases that goes way beyond the Interpol platform. Financial institutions, service providers, border control, and many other institutions get involved, and those are the levels of red flags you are going to be dealing with, and that is why it's not a funny thing when you are declared wanted or fugitive.
It's not a funny thing you say, and people are saying that perhaps the lawyers of Mr. Ofori-Atta could have done better knowing the implications. Would you share that same view with them?
Definitely what I said to one of them to tell them. Definitely. Because these are not things you take lightly. It's not just the immediate person. And because when we do the profiling or law enforcement agencies do the profiling, these are things that are going to stay in the database for life. And people with your surname are going to be affected whether they are directly related to you or not. So I was thinking they would have made halfway, considering the fact that there's bad blood and there's confrontation and agitation between the OSP's office and the lawyer. They could have made halfway rather than allowing him to be declared fugitive and a wanted person. It goes way beyond what we are thinking. It's not just when you kill somebody. We are talking about businesses and personalities and families and associates, and your name pops up all over the world when it comes to all databases. And you'll be hiding in your room or wherever you go, you are a fugitive. Because I can tell you.
Richard Kumado is a security consultant. We can now listen to Dr. Victor Doke, security expert at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, who said the order means any Ghanaian living everywhere can now cause the arrest of the OSP.
With regards to this particular issue, if assuming everything goes well and then even the country where he is, the authorities effect the arrest and then he decides to go, and then also try to sort of like rebut or whatever, and we are looking at how the country is also going to respond. We are looking at bilateral relations with that country in particular also, and if they are able to effect this process to the latter, how would they also want Ghana to respond in any case in future if it happens that there's a fugitive here who has to be extradited from Ghana here? So it's a give and take issue.
Victor Doke there talking to us about how now everyone anywhere in the country, because of that red notice anywhere around the world, can cause the arrest of the former finance minister Ken Ofori-Atta. Let's have a quick chat on the back of this. In the meantime, if you went to Facebook right now, you see that Interpol alert for the former finance minister Kenneth Nanayao Ofori-Atta is there with his particulars, as they put it, identity particulars, his family name, his full name, his gender, his date of birth, place of birth, nationality, distinguishing marks, which he has none, and so on and so forth. But let's have a quick chat now. Christian Malm Hesse is a legal practitioner who has maintained that a court of competence jurisdiction is the preferred forum to determine whether Ken can be listed on Interpol's website. We'll bring him on into the program right now. Christian, good afternoon to you. Let's talk quickly about the situation. This is the best move the OSP could have made at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, good evening and thanks for having me. Yes, I mean, it is one of probably two options the OSP could have done. I mean, that just as you have expounded on it, it is one that we all know that Mr. Ken, at that material time, was invited over, even though he was out of the country, for him to cooperate with the OSP in respect of certain allegations relating to corruption and corrupt-related matters. However, it seems to suggest that he has not been able to be present. The OSP maintains that even though there remain insinuations of ill health, he has not formally informed the OSP of the particular medical issues surrounding his person. However, the OSP has maintained its grounds to progress with the matter, and it has resulted in putting him on Interpol wanted list. It must also be said that while the OSP has all the due process to do that, it follows through with the Interpol and then would then move into extradition. It is no mean feat because the procedures involved to procure the order, basically, assuming without admitting that Mr. Ofori-Atta is in the country and is failing to cooperate with police asking for arrest, normally the police would go to the district or the circuit court to procure an arrest warrant. And then after getting that, the particulars of that particular person, as we have it, will be published on their circulars around as a wanted person. And in the situation where the person is out of the country, you would have to channel the details of the arrest through Interpol, because Ghana is a member state. So this is what we have seen.
Indeed, Christian,
happening.
We also hear the likes of Richard Kumado say that the legal team of Ken Ofori-Atta have not done him good, and essentially they brought this upon themselves. What would you say to that?
It will be unfair for me to slight my colleagues down. I will not shudder to say or to affirm what he said, but I mean, it is for everybody to judge. It could be presumed that the lawyers have their strategy they are playing, but what it is that as the matter moves into extradition, it would be for the transferring state to confirm the legalities involved. So the legal charges, as it is now, he's merely a suspect, he's not an accused. And so where the extradition processes have been kicked in by UK or US, it would be for Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta to challenge the process in these two countries. And that is where the legal process would become, as we call it, complex, because it is not simple to say that once you have put a person on Interpol, the transferring state would immediately surrender the person. No, it doesn't happen that way. Those countries would also consider the rights of the person, especially when that particular person is challenging his extradition. A court of competent jurisdiction would have to hear him, and that is where the OSP is going to face the challenges. I mean, everybody must be listened to, because that's natural justice.
I see, Christian, just a couple of things and then we move on from this, right? There are those who have criticized the OSP's, the way the case is being handled. I guess my question to you would be whether or not, based on the documents we have seen asking the OSP to postpone that meeting between the special prosecutor and Ken Ofori-Atta, or do it remotely, whether those documents are enough to have prevented the OSP from putting him back on the red notice list.
Yeah, I mean, OSP's legal point is that, I mean, when you look at the criminal jurisprudence of the country, when an arrest is made, it is for you to be present before the arresting officer or the CID, so that your details will be taken. It is not done remotely, and while it's not done remotely, your caution statements and everything will be taken. And so an invitation is not in the literal sense of an invitation where you could have a virtual call with the OSP, because it is not one of pampering. It is one of criminal investigation. So your presence is much needed. And by that, his presence as needed, he has not availed himself. OSP is of the belief that no credible position has been advanced by him, and that is why OSP has commenced in that direction. However, if that Mr. Ofori-Atta has not cooperated, OSP could proceed with criminal proceedings in absentia, and it is not alien to our criminal jurisprudence. And we have situation. If you look at Article 19, it deals with the fact that while a person is arrested, that person should be given fair trial, and the trial should happen in the person's presence. Now, however, there's an exception where the person fails to allow for the continuation of such criminal proceedings. Then the proceedings will happen in the person's absentia. Absentia means it's a Latin for in the absence of the person. So that is also another option. That's why my preliminary statement.
An option you'd expect the OSP to take up immediately?
he has one of the two options too, and that would mean that. But the court always maintains that before the trial by absentia happens, there must be a legal justification that would inure to that process happening. And if OFC believes all that he has said to us is anything to stand in or to stand by in law, then those justifications will be given in the court of competent jurisdiction, and where the court is convinced, where the court is convinced, will allow the process to happen in absentia, basically to guide and protect the fundamental human rights of Mr. Ofori-Atta. And the court would also ensure that at all points in time, notices of the progression of proceedings will be served on him, so that if he decides to waive his rights, then that's it. We should also not forget that under the Constitution and also our criminal procedures, where one is even arrested, say that Mr. Ofori-Atta is arrested today, he has the right not to even write a statement. So where the OSP is inviting him to do caution, to have his caution statement and everything, the law says that he may decide to write a statement. He may decide not to. So if we are to assume that Mr. Ofori-Atta is present here and he has refused to put a pen on paper to write his signature, to write his statement, what is the OSP going to do if he fails to? So there are options the OSP could assess.
See, sounds like a much more complex situation than would like to believe. Thank you so much, Christian, for talking to us. Christian Malm Hesse is a private legal practitioner. We'll stay on the subject of graft because the Special Prosecutor Kissi Agyaben has advocated for a more robust asset declaration mechanism that would include verification and tracing of undeclared assets. Delivering a keynote address at the high-level conference spearheaded by the African Union Advisory Board Against Anti-Corruption in Accra, Kissi Agyaben said the legal regime must evolve to meet the sophistication of modern corruption schemes.
There should be a more robust and effective asset declaration mechanism in respect of public officers and persons undergoing lifestyle audit to close the loop on the amassing of illicit wealth and to enhance accountability. We should move beyond mere repositories to a system of verification and tracing undeclared assets. However, I do not, and I will not add my voice to calls for the publication of assets for public scrutiny. In our experience, it will be unhelpful and would merely subject public officers to inordinate public curiosity and the specter of the real likelihood of reprisals against their assets. In my estimation, a publication of who has declared or has not declared his assets in the context of a workable asset verification and tracing model would be sufficient to assure the integrity of the asset declaration system. On another score, I dare say corruption begins where values collapse. That is why integrity must be designed into our educational system, from the basic level through to the tertiary level. And I'm looking at students. A student who regards a corrupt businessman as his or her role model would invariably emulate him without remorse. Do not do so. A society in which the youth adore and celebrate ill wealth would only reap, get rich, corrupt, and fraudulent practices. I cannot state all that is on my mind on our accountability journey at this stage, Your Excellency, except to say that we must strive to change the narrative and fashion our own course and course by keeping the glimmer on the horizon glowing until the light beckons closer and shines overhead in a just and prosperous trajectory.
Kissi Agyaben is Special Prosecutor of this Republic. Now, Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman at the same event called for bold and systemic reforms to strengthen the country's anti-corruption architecture, emphasizing the need for constitutional amendments. The Vice President was speaking at the same high-level conference on Ghana's corruption architecture here in Accra.
Revitalizing Ghana's anti-corruption architecture requires bold actions across multiple fronts. We must legislate and revitalize unexplained world orders, extending the application to both public officials and private citizens, while anchoring the principle of reverse burden of proof in our Constitution. The revised conduct of public officers bill will onboard the views of CSOs, anti-corruption institutions, the media, academia, the international community, and all relevant stakeholders to ensure that this bill stands the test of time. The bill will be open to a comprehensive engagement by all stakeholders, and its content and passage will once again demonstrate our commitment to accountability and the fight against corruption. Definitely, you talked about the asset declaration, and I agree with the major points you have made. We must ensure also that we have sustainable financing for anti-corruption institutions to reduce their influence and also to enhance their independence. The financing of political parties and national elections must be regulated through comprehensive legislation that addresses both internal party leadership selection and national campaign funding.
Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, let's have a chat on the back of this. Adam Senanu is co-chair of Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Adam, I appreciate your time with us. Thank you so much. But what do bold and systemic reforms in our corruption fight look like?
Well, maybe I should start out by saying that I'm a member of the board, and so we are working with government. We spent the entire week reviewing Ghana's anti-corruption architecture, and today's conference was a climax of that. So it's the African Union Advisory Board Against Corruption with the government of Ghana, reviewing Ghana. And I am proud of Ghana to have accepted to undergo this review. In terms of the various issues that came up, very substantive recommendations highlighting where we find ourselves. The fact that we've retrogressed on some of the most important corruption indexes. The fact that at the moment our legal regime looks at political parties, whereas when we look at the funding of political parties, it is the members of the parties engaging in campaigns who seem to have the money. And so the current regime is not fit for purpose because the parties will submit the annual report with not much money there. But we find that the presidential and other candidates must raise a lot of money, which is unaccounted for. The sources, whether legitimate or otherwise, are not known. There are issues of sanctions that must be tightened and made more clear for public officers who engage in various forms of breaches of the law or of anti-corruption, and many other similar issues and some constitutional changes we may need to make in order to make this fight much more progressive. So it's a very useful gathering and apex point for the week.
And I take it as that gathering is the beginning of the implementation of some of these systemic and bold reforms?
Absolutely. So we started the week engaging what we call the National Anti-Corruption Agency, which is TRAJ. We spent the second day with the presidency. We went on to the Attorney General. We met the Speaker. We met the judiciary. All the key stakeholders that must play a role, ending with civil society over the last 48 hours. We will be submitting recommendations to the government of Ghana by the end of July, at least a draft report for the country to look at and come back to us. We are hoping that that too could feed into the constitutional review and other key decisions being taken. And hopefully some of the loose areas where, for example, we don't have clear laws on lifestyle audits, and we think that if you look at our convention, the articles highlight, at Article 14, highlight the need for an illicit enrichment lifestyle audit. These are things that must be put in place to make it much more difficult and risky for individuals to engage in corruption. And so we are hoping that once we submit, it will also add to the gamut of things that this government would like to do to ensure that we consolidate our fight against corruption.
The special prosecutor at this event talks about asset declaration, where he agrees with the flock that it's an important step in stemming graft. However, he does not believe that whatever is declared is published. Will that be part of those recommendations you forward to the president?
No, definitely not. Mr. Kissi Agyaben, whilst we very much salute the effort he's been putting into holding current officers accountable, and we don't have many institutions that are doing enough of that. We think that the issue of publication is a non-negotiable. For all of us in civil society, this is best practice. We are not just saying verify the assets, but publish them. I guess that any public officer will be uncomfortable. But if you seek public office or accept public office, you should accept the fact that public people will scrutinize you, will put a microscope to what you're doing, and now whatever actions you take there are things that the public has every right to interrogate. So both verification and publication, just like sister nations are doing in Nigeria and elsewhere, is a non-negotiable, and we expect that will also be part of the recommendations.
Another problem highlighted by the Vice President is political party financing. Is one many of you anti-corruption campaigners have also spoken about a lot in times past. What are the recommendations being forwarded to the President on that?
Well, so I mentioned one, but let me just start out by saying one of the things we've said is that the political campaign season must be defined. And we think that we do not need much more than a 6-month period for political campaign. It's because by the time we end the second year, getting to the third year, people start campaigning. So you have 2 years, and we are talking in billions in terms of what is being used at the moment. Absolutely unsustainable. It means that individuals are getting into government indebted, and when they get into government, they must find ways and means to pay back. So a shorter political campaign season legislated, which means that when you breach it, it is punishable. It's one of those things, not more than 6 months. From July to November, or is it June to November, December should be fine. That's one of the very concrete suggestions that have come up. The other thing is that we are clear in our minds that the political parties themselves are not the ones receiving the bulk of the money. It is the individual who are campaigning either for parliamentary, presidential, or other positions. And so we need to reform our law. Some legal reform is necessary to make the current law, political parties law, which the Electoral Commissioner is responsible for, much more effective at looking at individuals, what monies are coming in, how they is being utilized, and ensuring that we don't get the proceeds of crime, funding these persons, and before you know it, we have state capture or personal capture that then takes over our government. So these are some of the concrete suggestions that have come up so far.
Beyond forwarding those recommendations to the government, what are your expectations?
Well, there has been, in our engagement with the president on Tuesday afternoon, he said, and this is to paraphrase, that, look, he's clear that he's not coming back for election. He wants to leave a legacy, and some of that time has gone. In fact, the National Advisor on Anti-Corruption says, listen, our president has 3.5 years left. We better just put together what we need to do to make Ghana much more secure. It appears to us that this president is taking this fight seriously and wants to have an architecture that allows us to do much better. We hope that that political will translate into execution of the recommendations that we provide over the next 2 months, and that we'll be able to take it forward in building a stronger, effective campaign against corruption in this country. We've also talked about how the base of all of this is the issue of integrity, the values of our society. So one of the things that came up over and over again is the need for public education, starting from kindergarten through primary. What are the core values that we stand for? What are the models of integrity and honesty and hard work that we are projecting ensuring that the next generation can stand for it. Our greatest asset is our young people. It's also our greatest hope. And we need to make sure that we, as it were, nurture them to be champions of anti-corruption for the future.
Adam, thank you so much for your time and insight on the subject matter.
And thank you.
Adam Senano is co-chair of Citizens Movement Against Corruption. He's also a member of the board reviewing Ghana's anti-corruption architecture. It's a hot edition here on 392.7 FM, about 37 minutes past the hour 5. I'm Keminni Amanor. Let's get into some other stories now. The Ministry of Transport has announced the coming into force of the no permit, no excavator policy. The policy aims to clamp down on the use of excavators in illegal mining and protect the country's water bodies. According to a release by the Transport Ministry, all shipping lines should henceforth desist from transporting excavators into the country without permit. Dealers and importers of these machinery are to obtain a permit from the ministry before importing them. The Minister of Transport, Joseph Bukari-Nikwe, in a media interview, revealed over 200 excavators are imported into the country daily.
We, the Ministry of Transport, in our support to the fight against illegal mining that we all know to be galamsey, we are putting in place this ban or this prohibition of importation of excavators into our country. Mr. Evans, if you pay a visit to the port, the Tama port, you will see an invasion of excavators in that port. And we receive over 200 excavators on daily basis into our ports.
You mean 200 excavators a day?
Over. And for 3 weeks today, when I visited the port and asked for a halt in clearing of excavators, we have had over 1,200 plus excavators in the Tama port. And our intel said that on the high seas, we have close to 3,000 excavators coming in. And this is a disturbing and worrying situation. We can only stop this illegal mining if we look at the importation of excavators. And so it is on this basis that we have put a ban. But if you come and you are a registered mining company or a contractor, and we are convinced that you need excavators to engage in your activities, then you can access a permit. But if you are not in that category, we advise that you do not attempt, because we will either confiscate it or will not allow it to be cleared in our port.
The Transport Minister, Joseph Nikwe, there. Now, the Institute of Engineering and Technology Ghana is urging the government to strictly apply the rules and demolish all structures sited on waterways, including buildings at Ramsar sites. Recent flooding in parts of the country has been blamed on multiple factors, including engineering of drains. President of IET Ghana, Engineer Henry Kojo Boateng, sounded the warning at the 15th induction ceremony of new engineers in Accra. There's more in the following report.
The country continues to experience severe flooding with the slightest rains. Many Ghanaians have expressed deep concern over the inability of Ghanaian engineers to find lasting solutions to the country's recurrent flooding problems. Whilst insulating engineers from the recent flooding, President of the Institution of Engineering and Technology Ghana, Engineer Henry Kojo Boateng, further wants government to finance the construction of new drainage systems across the country.
The key issue is attitude, our mindset, how we dispose of refuse. That is our major challenge. And the other challenge is for us to relook at our drains, which is financial. You may recall that a minister some time past, I think Mr. Atachia and Asenso Buachi, they all came out with the estimated budget, estimated figure that the Minister of Western Housing, to be precise, Hydrological Authority needs for us to redesign and construct our drainage system. So one is financial, and the second is the attitude, the mindset of the people.
Some 2,000 professionals were inducted at a ceremony. The practitioners include civil and building construction, chemical, biomedical, and allied engineering fields. A member of the Engineering Council, Engineer Atta Sono, said the Engineering Council will continue to keep tighter regulations of the profession.
The Engineering Council, which is the regulator for the practice of engineering, was here to witness the induction of practitioners into the engineering fraternity by IET. The message we brought were in threefold. One, the fact that it is the Engineering Council that regulates the practice of engineering in Ghana, and therefore whatever we are doing today is only the first step. The next step is for the institution to submit the names to the council to be vetted, and then they will receive their licenses to operate as engineers or engineering practitioners. The second message we brought was to remind practitioners that they owe themselves and the country that those qualities of practicing with integrity, practicing with good conscience, and giving back to the country in a manner that the country would.
Let's turn attention to health now. The Ministry of Health and other civil society organizations have launched #FP2030 initiative as part of Ghana's continued efforts to ensure that women and girls have the freedom and ability to make informed choices about their reproductive health, including access to contraception and family planning services. The initiative, formerly known as Family Planning 2020, is a global partnership committed to advancing family planning as a cornerstone of health and development. Executive Director of the National Population Council, Florence Hagen, said government is committed to this action.
There are a number of issues on family planning. We know we have cultural issues about family planning. We have religious issues about family planning. So the way we're supposed to educate and promote the acceptance and the accessibility of family planning in Ghana is not going down well. But we have to do it because we have so many benefits if we really implement family planning to its fullest. It will avert more resources to other areas of development, and then it will also empower the young ones to know how to make decisions on their reproductive health. It will also empower the youth to prevent unwanted pregnancies and other STIs and then other diseases. The government of Ghana also has commitment to make by providing the resources that is needed. There are commodities that we need to give to the people who need to use it to prevent unwanted birth and then also prevent other STIs and STDs.
You heard Florence Hagen, Executive Director of the National Population Council. Meanwhile, Yusuf Nuhu, Senior Lead Advocacy and Country Engagement for FP 2030 Northwest and Central Africa, he's optimistic the initiative would work for the country.
We want to increase momentum for family planning so that it continue to contribute to the achievement of sustainable development and the SDGs via increasing opportunities for women, girls, and families to be able to contribute their quota in the productive capacity in the country. The Made Possible by Family Planning campaign is a campaign that all stakeholders, including government, donors, private sector, civil society, can partake in and contribute to its targets. We are targeting, for example, people in the arts, people in the fashion industry, athletes, including footballers and what have you, to continue to raise their voices for family planning.
Yusuf Nuhu is Senior Lead Advocacy and Country Engagement for FP 2030 Northwest and Central Africa. As we wind down, a second look at our top stories. Former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta remains on the wanted list of Interpol, and we've looked deep into the legal and security implications for this development, including the option for the special prosecutor to try him in absentia. Also on the subject of corruption, Special Prosecutor Kissi Agyaben has vowed to fight corruption, but also wants a more robust asset declaration mechanism. rather tragically, newly married man trapped to death and crushed by haulage truck at Tanochrome in the Western region. I do appreciate your time here on Hot Edition on 392.7 FM. I'm Keminni Amanor. Thank you so much for your company. Bye.